Hello, you are watching the Supply Chain Digital Show, brought to you by Supply Chain Digital Magazine, Procurement Magazine, and BizClick Media Group. My name is Sean Ashcroft. I'm editor of Supply Chain Digital. In this show, we bring you all the latest news, analysis, and opinions from the world of supply chain every 2 weeks, right here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and other digital platforms. Joining us as usual today is Procurement Magazine editor, Georgia Wilson. Hey,
Hi, Sean.
Georgia, how are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Now, a quick reminder at this point for all of you watching, please do say hello by posting in the comment section just underneath the show, and also do vote in our LinkedIn poll. On which note, Georgia, what is our poll this week?
Yeah, so this week's one is Walmart is leading the way on drone deliveries. What's the biggest barrier to greater use of drone tech? And the options were privacy issues, safety issues, expense, or airspace legal issues. So what are your thoughts on the poll, Sean?
Yeah, well, I did that story actually on Walmart last week, and it did get quite a few comments, and people were highlighting that there were safety issues with drones, privacy issues, and the rollout of drone delivery, is going quite slowly. So that's what sort of gave me the idea for the poll. But I'd be interested to see. I mean, there are safety issues. Overhead power cables. They can be hacked as well and diverted, and there's lots of potentially quite complicated things that can go wrong. So it'll be interesting to see what people think about that.
Yeah, I was going to say there must be a lot of intricacies that go into sort of dealing with drone technology in regards to sort of all of those issues. But yeah, we'll be sharing the results of that poll at the end of the show. But there's loads to talk about before then. So, Sean, should we start by taking a look at some of the latest supply chain and procurement news?
Yeah, let's.
Cool. So, Sean, where did you want to start?
Yeah, thanks, Georgia. So I'm start us off. Normally we look at two pieces. This time it's one story, but it's kind of broken into a series of five. And it was some stories I wrote last week on how retail supply chains in Ukraine have responded to war there. And it's a series of articles that was based on a presentation that I found on LinkedIn from Helen Shapanik, who's product director at an Estonia-based retail supply chain optimization company called Leafio. And Leafio has many clients who are based in Ukraine. And so from Helen's presentation, I sort of broke this piece down into a serialized 5-piece special. And the first piece was kind of, Helen was talking about, would retailers ever think to come up with a step plan for a war situation? I mean, digital twins are meant to mimic all kinds of, nightmare scenarios, but would war ever be one of those? But she was saying the kind of things that might be on a retail supply chain step plan might be, what do you do if your warehouse is bombed? What do you do if half of your staff just suddenly disappear because they've fled the country, or they've joined the security forces for to fight the Russians? And what do you do if your supply centers are completely destroyed? And of course all these things actually happen for real. And then as we sort of delved into this subject, looked at the early weeks of the war, just 10% of suppliers were active at that point. And, warehouses destroyed, product lines which used to be tied to individual suppliers, they didn't exist anymore. Shops were just trying to get products from wherever they could. And as war progressed, then certain products became increasingly rare, meat and dairy, for example, and then social products such as water and medicines also were dangerously short of supply. And wheat, of course, we've been hearing a lot about that recently. Ukraine, a huge producer of wheat, and Russia for that matter. So that's causing a lot of problems in Ukraine and beyond, of course. And then it also went on to look at the social side of supply, because there are thousands upon thousands of people holed up in bunkers and cellars, trying to hide from the bombs, and thousands of children cooped up in dark, damp, boring, scary kind of places. And so toy retailers are trying to get toys and games to as many children as they can, to sort of divert them from all that boredom and horror. They're drastically reducing the hours of employees because they're exhausted and terrified and often can't work full hours anyway. And so I thought that was fascinating and very heartening to hear as well. And then finally, looking at Helen was looking at how automation and technology is going to play an important part in restoring retail supply chains, and probably all supply chains actually, to some degree of normality when peace, hopefully soon, when peace returns to Ukraine. And actually, I'm delighted to say that Helen will be joining us later on in the show as a special guest. So I'll be able to ask her, in a little bit more detail about the reaction of supply chains in Ukraine. So that was my sort of epic story from the last couple of weeks, Georgia. What about yourself? What's caught your eye in the world of procurement?
Yeah, so first up is an interview that I did with Daniel Heinfeld, who's the VP of Product Management at Spend Management Cloud Service Provider Medius. So in the interview, we sort of discussed the benefits of AI and RPA technology for the procurement function, as well as sort of the value that can be gained in the function when they're combined together. So we also kind of discussed that, while they certainly do have their benefits, both of them, to organizations such as, guiding users in their buying decisions, optimizing procurement processes, and automating those repetitive and low value tasks. In order to be sort of successful in that, it's crucial to understand what technology needs to be implemented and where, and as well, ingesting substantial amounts of data into that technology to gain the best results.
Sure. Actually, forgive my ignorance, Georgia, but what does RPA stand for?
So robotic process automation.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Oh, now you mention it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's just we seem to sort of cover that story in different guises, sort of almost every other week, don't we? In one form or another.
Yeah, technology definitely plays a big part, and probably will continue to play a big part in the future of sort of both procurement and supply chain.
That's right. I mean, and what about your second story, Georgia?
Yeah, so I'm sort of sticking with technology. The second article was one that I looked at a recent PwC report on digital trends in supply chain. So the report highlighted that, while we're seeing many technology investments being made, and many people are seeing them as being important, there's sort of this shift in how technologies are being adopted in sort of in most recent years, in light of what's been going on over the last couple of years, which is sort of then leading to uneven returns on investment. So the survey found that only 20% of leaders in procurement and supply chain are reporting that their investments in technology have fully delivered the expected results. The report also found that of sort of those technologies that are being adopted, cloud technology far outpaces others, with 52% of organisations reporting full or moderate adoption of these kinds of capabilities, and then 72% were also planning to invest. So yeah, there's some sort of interesting statistics in there.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, so and then sort of the report finally highlighted the opportunities for better deployment of technology, and that there was sort of 5 key considerations for organisations to be more effective in their adoption.
Do we know why so few, technology programs are having the effect that procurement expected them to have?
I think it sort of seems to be from the report that it's down to that shift, that people had one sort of strategy, knew what they were going to do, had it all laid out, and then the last sort of few years have changed, has caused them to change and shift what their priorities are, where they need to invest the money, and etc. And it's kind of a lot of people. I mean, I've read in sort of various different places that a lot of companies have had to pause innovation or completely stop projects altogether. So I think it's just sort of that turbulence that's caused uneven returns on investment.
It might well be too that it's the old staffing issue as well, that you can't get enough technically skilled staff to man those projects and take them forward.
Yeah, definitely having someone that can deliver it as well.
And well, thanks very much for that, Georgia. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when I was reviewing the supply chain story I did on Ukraine, we're absolutely delighted now to be joined by Helen Szczepaniak, who is product director with a company called Leafio. The Leafio creates AI-based software for retail supply chain processes, automation and optimization. It serves 160 retail companies across 15 countries, including Ukraine, where Helen herself is from Kiev. So we're really happy to have you here, Helen. Welcome aboard.
Hi, hello.
And I believe you're actually speaking to us from London at the moment. You're at a trade show, is that right?
Yes, exactly. I am in London currently.
And good. Well, it's really lovely to have you with us, Helen. Now, I wondered if you could maybe just begin by telling us a little bit more about what it is that Leafio does.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. That really means a lot. So Leafio is an AI cloud platform for retailers that increases on-shelf availability, reduces overstocks, eliminates the out of stocks and food wastages through automatic replenishment, efficient planogram generation, and accurate demand forecasting for both regular and promotional sales.
I see. And what's a cross section of your customers then, Helen? Who typically would be a customer?
Typically, it is a retail chain which consists, let's say, from 10 till 500, 600, 800 stores. So it is the ideal customer profile for us.
Okay, so big companies.
Big, small, middle-sized, but typically it is middle-sized and big companies.
Okay. And so, when I was introducing the stories earlier on in the show, I was talking about how it was based on a presentation that you gave to a trade event in Poland, and when I read that presentation, found it incredibly, powerful, and also it was very interesting and also quite moving in places. What is happening that's so out of the ordinary, really, in retail supply chains, across Ukraine because of the war. I wondered if, maybe you could just tell us and our followers and viewers exactly how retail supply chains have changed in Ukraine since the war began.
Hmm. So yes, the structure of the supply chain has really significantly changed, and I think that there are three main points here. The first one is the stop of the sea import and basically import itself. The some work interruptions of the vast majority of the suppliers and manufacturers that forced retailers to change their assortment policy. And at the moment, retailers are looking for an opportunity to find products from any supplier just to put it on the shelf and provide the population with at least some basic groceries. And unfortunately, it is not always possible to do. The second point here is, and our customers are talking about this. It is the shortage of social groups. It is the point you were talking about previously, and in these circumstances, the situation really differs from region to region. And in such kind of environment of great volatility and uncertainty, retailers are trying just to ensure that these categories, these basic categories, that they are available in stores and fixed prices to keep them affordable, especially for vulnerable segments of the population. For example, just now, so when I was presenting my topic in Warsaw, there was a shortage of butter in some regions, and some cereals in different regions. And just now, there are some problems with salt and soda, because the sources in Ukraine were destroyed or occupied by Russians. And the third problem, which is connected with the previous two points, uh, because of with the onset of the war, a lot of social changes took places, and a lot of people were evacuated to western parts of the Ukraine, and a large number of companies ceased to exist. People lost their jobs, and the huge percentage of male part was attracted to armed forces to defend Ukraine. So all these changes led to the sharp decrease in purchasing power, and in general, it really shifted the demand of goods in the stores. And because of this, the demand for premium goods decreased. And on contrary, increased the demand for the social goods and items.
And what about the supply of, fresh drinking water, bottled water, and social goods like that? Are you still in contact? Because I believe you're actually in Poland at the moment. Are you still in contact with friends and family from home about what they can and can't get, and what's on the shelves and what isn't on the shelves? I know it's a relatively minor thing in the great scheme of things, but just interested to know.
Hmm. So, as I have mentioned, the situation differs from region to region. In the occupied territories like Mariupol, like some parts of Kharkiv and the Donetsk region, there are really huge problems with the supply of water and food. I think that in all categories. But on the non-occupied parts of Ukraine, there are no problems with the, let's say, necessary goods and items like still water. So basically, people have water, they can buy it, and no problems with, let's say, really necessary items.
Okay, well that's good to hear. And so, I mean, let's fast forward to when hopefully soon peace does return to Ukraine, and the country will have to rebuild itself, infrastructurally, and but also supply chains will have to rebuild themselves. Well, what role do you see AI and machine learning and technology playing in that sort of rebuilding job, Helen?
Mm-hmm. So, it is a big hype around the AI technologies, and I don't treat AI to be a magic pill that will make a miracle with the supply chain after the war ends. And nobody knows actually when it will happen. But I'm sure that the advanced technologies would help Ukrainian companies to move faster in terms of increasing availability, decreasing the shortages of, let's say, A category goods, to serve the main aim of the supply chain to satisfy the customer's demand. Ukrainian companies are getting used to the situation of this volatility and uncertainty because of the war, and we are helping them with some specific feature developments to help in automation of specific processes that were caused by the war. And as they are getting used to the war, to the situation, as there were more than 100 days to get used to it, you know people with courage and desire are overcoming all the difficulties, and people of Ukraine are just like that.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic to hear, and we hope that you can return to your homeland sooner rather than later, Helen.
Yeah, thank you very
And
much.
and it's been an absolute delight having you on. We wish you a safe journey back to Poland.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Helen for joining us today. Now we've got some more great content to share with you after this short break, so don't go anywhere.
Our strategy remains to be dedicated to helping our more than 8 million customers. My name is Rachel Henning, and I lead our Procurement, Supplier Management, and Governance division at the Standard. Standard was founded in Portland, Oregon back in 1906, and it's a leading provider of financial protection, insurance, retirement, and investment products and services for employees and individuals. However, under our holding company name, StanCorp Financial Group, the organization has 4 primary subsidiaries: Standard Insurance Company, Standard Life Insurance Company of New York, Standard Retirement Services, and StanCorp Mortgage Investors. The core business is our customers. Serving our customers' needs remains our priority. Genpact employees support the Standard's operations across the life insurance policy cycle: underwriting, policy administration, customer service, claims, and finance and accounting. Their global talent enables and supports growth, and their contact center operations have a direct impact on improving the customer service. We share a belief in improving operations and the business by simplifying and streamlining processes and adding automation where possible. Standard's lean management system, used in conjunction with Genpact's Lean Six Sigma expertise, has broken down silos and added value throughout our business. At the Standard, we believe we're better when we welcome diverse ideas, experiences, and backgrounds. This common quality of looking for compassion and expertise and a diverse set of ideas is something we share with Genpact and has helped serve our customer in their toughest of times.
Welcome back. Still to come, we have the results of our LinkedIn poll, more information on our upcoming events, and we'll also be taking a look at our latest issues of Supply Chain Digital and Procurement magazine. But first, let's just say a quick hello to some of the people who are making themselves known through comments in this show. So we'll say hello to Tatiana from Latvia. And we have Christina from Peru, and John from France. Hello to you all. And we also have a message from Samuel. I'm not sure where Samuel's joining us from. talking about supply problems in East Africa. Maybe it might be related to what's going on in Ukraine. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, thank you all very much for interacting with us and for watching the show.
So next up, we're going to take a look at the new release June issue of Supply Chain Digital, and we're going to continue to look at the May issue of Procurement magazine, which is our bi-monthly publication. So, Sean, did you want to start with your picks from the latest issue?
Yes, yeah. So this the June issue of Supply Chain Digital was published just a couple of days ago, so it's still hot off the press, digital press. My first pick from the June issue, I thought it was a really interesting piece. How actually quite an old technology, RFID, radio frequency identification technology, is actually helping to shape something very new in supply chain, which is omni-channel. The radio tagging technology has, it plays an integral part in digital supply chains, but it's also helping retailers in particular to, shape their omni-channel strategies. Because I spoke to Gayleen Mayer, who's Vice President of Global Marketing in Pinge. Pinge are the largest manufacturer of RFID devices in the States. And Gayleen was explaining, that retail is just a chaotic environment. You got so many products moving so quickly to so many places, trying to meet demand, feeding off real-time data. And so RFID technology is ideal for bringing some order to that chaos by allowing retailers to track products and to serve demand locally, through micro fulfillment and sort of new strategies like that. So I thought that was quite a fascinating use of old technology to a new application.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Sean. It's interesting to see that after sort of at the moment it's kind of the headlines are all the buzzwords of all the new innovations, all the new technology. But it's nice to see that some of the old ones are still being used in innovative and interesting ways as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your second pick?
Second feature is one on air freight. Now, tend to, in logistics anyway, the area that has sort of hogged the headlines is sea freight, but air freight, is still an important part of global logistics and supply chains. Tends to be for higher value products. The lower value products are shipped in bulk, generally by sea. Higher value products, electronics and I guess jewelry and desirable consumer goods like that tend to be shipped by air. Of course, during the pandemic, passenger flights were completely decimated, but the air cargo market, has been buoyant because demand is so high. And we actually interviewed Lufthansa Cargo CEO Dorothea von Boxberg, and Dorothea actually figured prominently in our top 100 women in supply chain recently. I think she was second or third in that, as being the most important female in supply chain. And so, she carries a lot of weight in the industry, and she's, a forward thinker. And but Dorothea was saying that, as I was mentioning earlier, with omni-channel, air cargo now is getting involved in omni-channel. They're fueling the e-commerce boom by, making sure that retail in particular can get their products shipped quickly. to specific locations where demand is spiking. And she said that the Lufthansa Cargo is, beginning to offer same-day e-commerce solutions to particularly its retail clients within Europe, and on selected medium-haul destinations. So it's kind of all change in air cargo, as it is all change across so much of supply chain. And so, Georgia, what about your pick from the latest issue of Procurement magazine? What are you going to share with us?
Yeah, so my pick from Procurement magazine this week is a feature on greenwashing. It kind of looks at whether this, negative practice is commonplace in sourcing and procurement. So the feature sort of starts off by looking at the common forms of greenwashing, such as hidden trade-offs, worshipping false labels, vagueness, or a lack of proof, irrelevance, the lesser of two evils, or just outright fibbing about their sustainability efforts. So I spoke with Nick Underdown. He's the head of communications and campaigns at OpenSeas. He sort of explains that unfortunately greenwashing is still rife within many sectors, particularly sort of in the seafood supply chain, which is where his company focuses on. So he sort of commented saying that greenwashing is such a common practice that the words sustainable and responsible are used routinely to describe many seafood products, despite the continued overfishing and marine habitat damage caused by some of the fishing practices that are out there. So then further on in the article, I then also spoke again both with Underdown and Ted Pardee, who's Chief Revenue Officer at Premise. So with those two, I discussed the consequences of greenwashing, how organisations can make sustainability mainstream, whether organisations can be participating in greenwashing activities without being aware of it, and how organisations can ensure that their operations are actually sustainable and not greenwashing.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You mentioned it there. Some companies are greenwashing without actually realizing that that's what they're doing, because they haven't got that visibility on their operations across their supply chain. Tier 1 maybe, but then once you start going into tier 2, 3, 4, 5 suppliers, then that's when the visibility often disappears. But companies who are knowingly greenwashing, I mean, I'm not sure that in itself is sustainable, because I think the public just won't buy it anymore. They'll vote with their wallets, and I think increasingly also you're finding that financing companies just are not interested in dealing with organisations that aren't taking sustainability seriously. So it is a hot area, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There's something I read earlier in the month, and it sort of looked at companies' investments and how whether, I think we might have actually talked about it on one of our previous shows, and how the companies are considering whether they actually invest in partnering with suppliers if they're not being sustainable, or if they haven't got any sustainability initiatives. It seems to be a real key element into whether you gain that sort of contract or not.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you what, Georgia, why don't we have a look at the results of our poll? Could you just remind us what the question was?
Yeah, so the question was about drone delivery. So Walmart is leading the way on drone deliveries. What's the biggest barrier to greater use of drone tech?
Right, so let's have a look at those results then. So I'll do it in ascending order. So one of the answers was expense as a problem with drone delivery, 6%, so expense. Then next is privacy issues with 21%. because a lot of drones carry cameras as well, don't they? So if they're delivering stuff to your door, there is a privacy concern there for many people. Safety issues, 35%. I mean, safety issues, we mentioned it earlier, you could have overhead power cables, hackers, intercepting signals and diverting drones and packages. Also battery failure. It's one thing your battery running out on your phone and it going dead, but if a battery runs out on a drone, it could potentially crash down on someone's head. And then finally, airspace legal issues, 38%. So that came top. I don't know what you were expecting from that, Georgia. Do you find any of that surprising, or?
Yeah, I think airspace legal issues from a sort of a business side was definitely sort of top of my mind. That would be what people would think. I think from like a sort of consumer acceptance and sort of adoption of it, perhaps more sort of privacy issues, safety issues would be higher up there. So kind of depending on who you're targeting, those sort of three would be my top ones.
Yeah. And of course you have military establishments and defense establishments and airports and sort of all kinds of places that you have no-fly zones. So how they're going to navigate their way around through these no-fly zones, it remains to be seen, I think.
Yeah, limits their sort of capacities. So I mean, I know I don't live that far away from an airport, and you can't fly sort of drones around here. So like if companies are using it as a way to sort of transport deliveries to people, don't know, that's a challenge in itself to how they would get it to those people that live within those zones.
Yeah, sure. So Georgia, I believe you've got some dates for our diaries.
Yes. So this October we'll be heading to the Queen Elizabeth II Centre in London for a new expo style event. It's called Supply Chain Live London 2022. This hybrid event will be held from the 12th to the 13th of October and will incorporate two zones, one for Supply Chain Live and the other for Procurement Live. So definitely something to put in your diaries and check out the website to find out more.
Yeah. So looking forward to that one. Right, folks, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this episode. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for interacting with us and for watching live, and indeed for taking part in the poll and posting your comments. And also do remember that this show is available on demand, so you can watch it at your leisure. Maybe share it with people you think might also be interested in supply chain and procurement. Now, a huge thank you to Helen Szczepaniak, who's product director with Leafio, who's our special guest today. And thanks as ever to you, Georgia, and also to Ernie and the rest of the video production team, to Justin and the design team for the fantastic looking magazines, and also to Kaylee and the marketing team. This has been a BizClick Media Group production, and we'll see you next time. Bye.